Hello everyone. Welcome to our last session of webinar i360 on Edutech. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Hanna Girsang. I will be a moderator to this session. And here we are. We already have our great speakers for this session. Hi Raditya Pramana. How are you, Radit?
Hello, hi. I'm good. Thank you.
Hi. Good to see you. Thank you. Hi Hansen. How are you?
Hi, Hannah. I'm good. Thanks.
Good to see you. Thank you. And the most beautiful speaker we have today, Tania. Hi, Tania. How are you?
Hi, Hanna. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, guys. It's good to see you guys here. Okay, today we are going to talk about investing in edutech, right? And yeah, I think you guys already know about our speaker Raditya Pramana from Venturra Discovery, Hansen Hubert from Alpha JWC, and Tania Lestari from Openspace Ventures. All right, guys. Before we start, we will play a game like fun fact. Did you guys know about fun fact? Start from the most beautiful, Tania. It's your turn. Please tell us about your fun fact. Just a bit.
Just for fun, like before the session.
Before the session, what
Yeah.
happened?
Okay, I'll share something. Fun facts before COVID, because I think my life is more fun before COVID. So, yeah, I love to travel, but sometimes it's to the extreme. I think in 2019, 2018, I traveled to Japan more than 3 times.
Oh, really? Okay, that's all from your side?
From my family. Yeah, because as mentioned, my life is pretty boring. That's the only fun fact I can think of.
No problem. That's cool. All right, thanks, Tania. Okay, your turn, Hansen. Tell us about your fun fact.
Yeah, maybe I'll share this, right? So actually last weekend I got my first jab of vaccine. I was very happy about it. But the stupid me, I actually drank wine later that night, right? And then I found out that, actually drinking alcohol is one of the worst things you can do after getting your vaccine. So yeah,
Okay.
now just waiting for my second jab, but I don't know how effective that would be. So yeah.
That's great. How calm, Hansen. Thank you. And you, Radit, tell us about your fun fact.
Fun fact about me. Um, well, maybe okay. First thing, I used to be an avid backpacker.
Huh?
When I was still in uni, I traveled the whole of Southeast Asia with 10 million rupiah, uh, for
Nice.
like close to 2 months. For close to 2 months. So I don't know how. I don't know how I could survive that actually. But
That's
I did
fun.
that once.
Uh-huh.
And second, uh, I still love anime and mangas, man. Like I read comic books before. I
Oh,
read mangas like every time I go to sleep. Um,
ah,
and sometimes people find it weird. I don't know. I still love it. And and the third one, what else? Yeah, I think I just I love getting into new things. So I was hop into from one hobby to the other. I think my
uh-huh.
newfound hobby is just collecting vinyl records. I just got into it from like 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't stop. I don't know how long will this last before I move on to the next one. Actually. So yeah,
Wow.
three fun facts, just like the just like instructed, I guess.
That's great. Wow. Thank you, guys. I think, yeah. Now we know, yeah, about our fun fact. And mine, I will tell you guys about mine. When I had the dinner with my friends, and I ordered the Grab car, and it was late and very tired. And I immediately got into the car, kayak in front of me ada car, aku langsung masuk aja gitu sekarang kecapean. And you know what? I got the wrong car. kayak along the way, I just realized, okay, Pak, this is not my destination, ya. Okay, what is your name? Hanna. Oh no, my passenger's name is not Hanna, kind of thing. I think, okay, just kita langsung balik lagi ke tempat awal aku dijemput. And then the right passengers and my driver langsung kayak nungguin, loh lama banget dari mana, kind of thing. I think that's really fun. About mine. All right, guys, thank you. Okay, we start about the question talking about investing in education. About the development of edutech startup in Indonesia nowadays. How do you see the development of edutech startup in Indonesia? Maybe start from Radit.
Well, first of all, I guess hello guys. I wanted to kind of give some context. Venturra have invested in one of the edutech players in Indonesia, the one that is called Ruang Guru. We've made the investments in late 2015, actually in December 2015, and it has been more than 5 years since we first worked with the founders. Went through several pivots. Actually, a lot of challenges, right? So we're actually fortunate enough to kind of see how the edutech landscape kind of develops over time. So the way I see it, right? Ini udah pasti kejadian lah.
Yeah.
When we invested, we know for sure that we had to be patient, right? This would require some time to figure it out, find the right model, and to kind of realize the founder's dream, which is actually quite simple, right? On how can we democratize quality education to Indonesians, and all of the infrastructures were not in place, or were there but not optimal. But now, I think we're more ready than ever, right? Especially with COVID-19. The edutech innovations on different fronts have been accelerated, alongside with other sectors, right? But edutech is, I think, one of the biggest benefactor of the whole situation. And it would, I think, when it is all over, the schools, the students, the parents, the interactions would be fully digital. And now they know. The hardest part has always been the education, the education to the teachers, right, or to the institutions on how they wanted to adopt new technologies to kind of aid, their teachings, their interactions. But now, actually, everyone had to, and now everyone's getting used to it. So this is an exciting beginning. That's the way I see it.
Wow. Okay, thanks, Radit. How about your side, Hansen? How do you see the development?
Thanks, Hanna. Yeah, so the way I look at it, right, I think edutech in Indonesia is definitely a very interesting sector, right? I think it's one of those sectors that everybody knows that, right, that it's going to be a massive, massive sector, right? It's just a question of when. I think if we draw parallel to, the countries that we typically benchmark ourselves to, right, like China, India, or the US, there are typically multiple, edutech players that can achieve a large scale, right? I think not a few of them have achieved, billions or even tens of billions of dollars in terms of valuation. And if you compare that to where we are right now in Indo, echoing what Radit said, I believe that we are still in our infancy, right? I think it's still pretty much an uncharted territory with only a few players, have achieved some sort of scale, which is obviously still very far away from what we saw in the region. And most of the players today, they are focusing typically only on one segment only, right? And in terms of the development, they're also, I would say they're still focusing on the first stage of development, in which, obviously throwing the brand out there, right? So really, I think what we've seen today is only the tip of the iceberg. But going forward, I think we will definitely see an inflection point soon. Again, it's a question of when. there are definitely going to be multiple factors that will drive how soon or how late that inflection point will be. But we're definitely going to see that. So for us, myself and Alpha GWC, we are, and we will continue to be very bullish towards the market.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Hansen. Okay, Tania, what do you think about the development of edutech startup?
Yeah, I think to echo what everyone has been saying, right? Education is like one of the sectors that everyone is monitoring. So so maybe like to share some context, Openspace just invested in one of the edutech startup as well. So still pretty early in terms of our investment stage, but I mean like I'll share context regarding the research that we just did recently regarding education in Indonesia, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's similar to other sectors. Supply and demand remain one of the pain points regarding this sector, but it is less prevalent. So, for example, right, the ratio of teacher-student in Indonesia is around 15 to 17, and it is an issue, but it's not as critical as the other sector. Like, for example, healthcare. Like, one doctor cannot, like, it's impossible, like, for one doctor to manage 15 to 17 patients at the same time, but it's possible
Right.
for the teachers. It's just less effective. And then Indonesia, to give like all the audience more context about Indonesia education sector, we are adopting that decentralization model many years ago. So the hub of decentralization, like the management of affairs of education for primary, secondary, or higher level education, will be handled either by the district or provincial or even central government, right? So this is hoping that at the end of the day, the school penetration rate will at the end become higher and higher. And that's actually been proven because if we're comparing the number from 10 years ago to today, it's actually been increasing. So, for example, I guess the most significant one, higher level education, 10 years ago it was 13% penetration, and now we are actually reaching 25%. So, this makes it even more important to rebalance the teacher student ratio because the exposure for education becomes more prevalent. And then I guess the second issue, and I will not elaborate much about it, is to have access on better curriculum and customized learning to a certain extent because not every student is learning at the same pace, and I'll talk about it later. But in a nutshell, I have to agree with Hansen and Raditya that the development of edutech sector in Indonesia is still very early because they're touching upon this main issue, right? They help in increasing the reach and frequency of engagement. Like, for example, teacher doesn't need to be confined in the classroom to teach so many students at the same time. Like now, through this edutech platform, they're able to just use like Zoom wherever, whenever they want to teach so many students, and that helps in solving the efficiency issue. And then the second one, regarding the customized learning, I would say that, as mentioned, like everyone, like the current teaching situation in schools, like they're assuming that all students are actually learning at the same pace. But this with edutech plays offering complementary education, all the students will be able to learn at their own pace. So for those who are not able to follow up and understand the material at the time when the teacher teach it, they will able to use this complementary education platform to learn it themselves later on, right? Or for those who already understand it, they can further understand it and master it through the platform.
Wow, that's great. Thanks, Tania. All right, guys, despite a large number of edutech startup in Indonesia, what were the major challenges in investing the edutech startup? Maybe start from Hansen. What do you think, Hansen?
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge for an investor is really the belief, right? The belief that the market can break through all the barriers in the ad tech market that we've seen for so many years, right? And these barriers are multifold, right? I think echoing what Tania said, if I can categorize it into two big categories, there would be a supply side and a demand side. I think on the supply side, if you look at the timeline, right, I think before 2017, 2018, there were not so many edutech firms that receive funding from investors. I think there were only a few, and even the funding amount was rather limited, right? But I think in recent years, I think we've started to see a lot of new investors, splurging money into the sectors, which is very good, right? And I think going forward, it will only get better from the supply side. Now, if you look at the demand side, right, I think the problem is a little bit more complex because it comes from multiple sources, right? I think number one is the student particularly on the motivation level of the students, right? I think if you look at China, for example, right? I think the World Bank report that they published last year, I think they showed that 50% of Chinese students actually take part in extracurricular activities beyond the normal school, right? And if you only look at the tier 1 cities, that number can go up to 65%. But if you compare that to Indonesia, I think that number is still less than 5%, right? So really the motivation level, there is a big gap in there, right, between Indonesia and the other more developed markets. And the second reason is the parent, right? And I think this relates to the willingness to pay, right? I think, again, if you're comparing it to China, right, I think about 20% of household spending goes to the K-12 education. In India, the number is about 17-18%. And if you take into account the fact that in China, education until grade 9 is free, most of this amount goes to the extracurricular activities beyond compulsory schools. Now, that number in Indonesia is less than 10%, and most of that goes to compulsory schools, right? So willingness to pay is definitely a big problem in Indo. I think if you look at the players, I think a lot of the Edutech players in Indonesia have accumulated more than 5 million registered users. But if you look at the paying users, the number is much less than that. I think over 2020, Choi Bang and Yuan Futao in China, they accumulated more than 3.5 million, new paying users in that year alone. I think the total number of paying users in Indonesia since inception is less than that, right? So that's just want the audience to know the gap, right? I think it's still very big. Now, lastly is the government, right? I think the regulatory support is also a big gap here. I think before 2017, there hasn't been so many support from the government towards the sector. I think with the new regime, the new minister, they really believe in the importance of technology. I think we've started to see very significant support from the government with a lot of the initiatives, including the Prakerja. But really, I think the gap is still there, right? If you look at India, for example, the government spent about 90 billion US a year on the education infrastructure. In China, it's 500 billion. In Indonesia, it's only 20 billion. So there is a big gap there, right? So I think all these challenges, right, really, is what creating challenges for investors as well to believe, right, that the market will be able to break through at some point. It really requires a concerted effort from all stakeholders, right, from the students, the parents, the government, and also the players themselves, right, and eventually for the investors. So I think if I can just add a little bit more, I think what does that make, right? I think the problem that it creates is the monetization, right? I think it's really difficult to monetize in the market, right? I think India and China also went through the same cycle. I think at some point the players there are burning like over $150 million a year for marketing and discounts because they want to make it free, right? And customer acquisition was like, I don't know, $500 per student. So I think right now Indonesia is still at that cycle, but at some point, when we start to see a concerted effort from all stakeholders, I do believe that the market will start to see inflection point.
Wow, that's great. Thanks, Hansen. Okay, from your side, Tania.
Yeah. So I guess to add on what Hansen has said, the big challenge for investor mirroring the challenge that every edtech startups have in Indonesia, right? Because we invest in the best company that we believe will be able to solve the pain point of that sector. So to echo that, I believe that the biggest issue, it's actually affordability, right? Like in Indonesia, like at the end of the day, K-12 segments, which is like the main business model that all edtech players are trying to tap, is a complementary education. So on top of you need to carve out part of your wallet to spend on this education, these edtech startups kind of need to educate it as well because it's a complementary, it's not compulsory. So when you're educating, it becomes costly, especially if like the audience don't really understand what's the use of it, right? And especially if the additional disposable income that you have is very limited as well. It will actually get there. Like, currently, Indonesia has GDP per capita around $4,000, if I'm not mistaken. And as it weighs, we want to make sure that they understand the importance of start carving that out for education. So I guess the second point is really to find the companies that will be able to package a product that has a very high product market fit, meaning that what works in India and China might not work in Indonesia because we just have a very different culture. So to be able to crack that, right, you don't need to be the pioneer, but you just need to be able to package it very well so that when you market it to the students or even to the parents, it is a product that they are able to relate. So when you're educating it, it is less costly.
I see. Wow, that's great. Thanks, Tania. Okay, you want to add something from your side, Radit?
Yeah. So I guess just to add like another perspective here, I want to iterate that the key is really building a quality product, right? With a product market fit to democratize access to for quality education to the Indonesians, and because from our experience, yes, it was challenging for some of the early edutech players to figure out the right business model and the product market fit. But once they figure it out, once they build a product that the students and the parents can really see as being helpful, right? The willingness to pay is there, actually. Ever since one of our portfolio company, in the edutech space, like launched their online video learning program, monetization has never been an issue. And in fact, in last year was the first year that we've achieved EBITDA positive, stated, at least for our company, right? And so, and I think it makes sense, right? Because yes, the motivation level is an issue, right? And I don't think we are as competitive as as China, as India, as Korea, right? As students, but this level of competition is increasing every year, right? The pressure is there, and for the first time in their life, right? First time in their life that they finally get access to quality supplementary education that they can afford. Just as a comparison, right? When before the innovation of edutech of these edutech players, you have to pay around $500 a year for an offline tutoring center, and this is not an expensive one. Yeah, it can go all the way up to a few thousand. $500 a year. If you think about it, it's not much, but for a lot of Indonesian, it is expensive, right? And but finally, there's a platform that they can access at the palm of their hand with a tenth of the cost. So with $50, you can actually, get access to the level of education that you could never even imagine, that you could, right? So, and we have always been encouraged by listening to these stories of how people are begging on the street or selling peanuts on the street, and they say, okay, I want to buy an educational package, right? And they actually use it, and this is actually super encouraging for us. Because when we look at our testimonials, right? All of these pictures, all of these videos of students learning from their phone, they always, the background of their environment is always quite humble. So we did a quick survey actually of our users, and just to summarize, right? When we always think that the target has always been on a mid high income class, it's actually not. The majority of our paying users are they don't have a car. They only have a motorbike for the whole family to use. Just as just to give kind of some context, right? So I think it's just about finding that product market fit is key. And I also believe that the government support has always been strong. Even before like the current ministry, I think the current president from his previous term has also been very supportive and very keen to kind of boost the edutech sector. But I agree that it has been inefficient. That it has been primarily channeled into a few key areas, but not all. And one of the most important area, which is teacher training, has been, I guess, less exposed to the support. So I think it's just bits and pieces, right? I think we're moving in the right direction. But now, for me, it's just about timing, because everything looks great. But what makes it difficult is just to find a niche, right? Because ever since last year, even though the adoption rate has been increasing, then the competition level just increased tenfold. We have only been talking about edutech opportunities since last year, actually. Before that, no one's talking about it. And now, how can you, as an edutech platform, be able to differentiate yourselves with one another? And I think there's a lot of ways. And I think investors can look beyond K-12, beyond lifelong learning, and think about many things, especially the digitization of teaching institutions. And that's where the next opportunity lies, I feel.
Wow. That's great, guys. All right. So, talking about the opportunities and outlook for edutech investment in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. What do you guys think about the opportunities and outlook for the edtech investment in Indonesia, not only in Indonesia, but in Southeast Asia? Maybe start from ladies first, Tania.
I have to say implementation is very localized, but we can definitely take the learnings from other developed countries, right? They're already like way more advanced in terms of innovation, technology, all the ideas. Like for example, if like just looking at India and China, because they're closest to our country, if we can actually categorize it by target segment, there's the K-12, and then it's branched out to either kids education, pre-college preparation, fresh graduate, and the others, right? And then the second one, certification model, which is more advanced because you kind of need to really work together with universities that issue that certificate or degree. And the second one by channel. So this is top-bottom approach, meaning that it's typically start from pre-recorded content, and then they start offering live streaming, and then it starts moving towards like this offline model, which is a smaller classroom. So it's more direct, more direct and more premium as well. And then lastly, one-on-one tutoring, which becomes more famous in China. Like for example, VIP Kids is one of the most well-known players. And then lastly, there's this AI model. It's the least sustainable because I believe education still needs like human touch on it, but it's there, right? A lot of people are using it. Some of the models that have been prevalent in Indonesia includes doubt solving solution, but that's just one example of what AI model can offer for education. I guess in Indonesia, right, still early days. We're just getting started, but if we follow the trend, definitely we can definitely like start launching all those relevant products. But I would say that currently tap into what's critical first, the mass market. So K-12 is definitely a good start because that's where education, everyone starts to become more conscious about education. They want to get into higher level of education so they can at the end graduate and then land a job, right? And then the second one, after college, they become fresh graduate, and then because of prakerja as well, it becomes more like all these people become more conscious about the need of having a special skills. So like edutech players that offer that kind of special skills bootcamp also become more famous. So I would say that there's so many things that they can do, like more innovative solutions. But what all the players are currently doing, I feel is actually already in the right track, and there's so many things that they can actually still do in the current current business model.
Wow, that's great. Thanks, Tania. Okay, what do you think, Hansen?
Yeah, I think I'd just like to, echoing what Tania said, right? I think today, a lot, pretty much all the big guys in Indonesia, right, they're focusing on a K-12 segment, which very much makes sense, right? I think, if you look at the development in China, I think, all these big guys like Yuan Futao and Choi Bang, they also started from, K-12, right? Specifically from the high school. And then, because, for the reasons that Tania mentioned, I think these are the most motivated segments, right? They want to go to their preferred universities, land their a good job. And then from there on, they stream down towards the lower, primary school segment, right? Which is Indonesia, I think, still poses a huge potential there. But I think beyond K-12, right? I think the potential is also plenty, right? I think, I think Tania already mentioned a couple of different verticals that can be targeted. But I think in Indonesia, it's still pretty much a wide space, right? I think yes, there are a couple of new players starting out in a niche segment. All the big guys also started to expand into this other segments like vocational studies, upskilling, university additional studies. But I think it's still in a very early days, at least in Indonesia, right? Which means that there is a lot of potential there. And also language, for example, right, which is a very big and a very profitable segment as well. I think in China you have the VIP Kid, for example, right, it's very profitable, and then you have 51 Talk, just hit break even last year. I think it's a very profitable business. So I think we will definitely see a lot of expansion towards these new verticals. Either it's new players or existing players coming into these segments. I mean, if you also look at India, I think all this like Baiju, obviously, right? The big player, they started to come to these other segments, right? Well, they do it through acquisitions, but obviously it's not the only way, right? I think they recently acquired Akash, for example, right, to come to the mathematical and engineering focused offline tutoring. They are also in talks to acquire, Great Learning, which is a vocational focused. So yeah, I think Hanna, really, the potential is still very plenty. The outlook is definitely positive, fueled with the more efficient support, as Reddit like to put it, from the government. I think it's definitely going to be a positive outlook for Indonesian edtech market.
I see. Wow, thanks, Hansen. Okay, Radit, what do you think from your side?
Yeah, I think it's all pretty much covered by Hansen and Tania. I think I wanted to echo both of them, but just one more thing to add, because I truly believe in the opportunity to digitize teaching institutions. So from schools to universities, right? I think most of the current players are are packaging their current products as supplementary products, while the main interaction of learning for these students happen in the classroom. And that part remains untapped, I feel. And when that interaction between teachers, students, and parents are digitized, then we can obtain a lot more insightful data to enable personalized learning in many different formats. Now, the access to that is not yet sufficient, I feel. So again, digitize teaching institutions and personalized learning. And I think I wanted to also iterate that it's very important as well to enable, I guess, teacher and student interaction, right, beyond just video learning. So when we can translate it into an offline, online experience, then I think we can start being a relevant player to Indonesia.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Radit. Okay, guys. So I think this is the most important question that coming from the startup Edutech player. Do you think that Edutech investment has been saturated? What other innovations or key solutions are coming up in Indonesia? Maybe start from Hansen.
Yeah, thanks, Hanna. I think in terms of the innovations and the solutions, right, I think it's we've covered that, I think, in the previous question. But I think just want to emphasize on this point, right? I think I mentioned this as well. Really, I think we've only seen the tip of the iceberg, right? I think we are miles away from saturation. I think the potential is really plenty. Indonesia, we're blessed with 280 million population. So even with the sheer population and the ever increasing, spending power from the households, I think it's only gonna go up from here, right? But I think one thing that we've really have to keep our eye closely on is the inflection point, right? I think I personally believe it's going to be very, very soon. I think we've seen a lot of good, signals. As Radit mentioned, I think we're moving towards the right direction. I think all the stakeholders have started to realize that it's going to be the future, right, for Indonesia. So, I think for everyone out there, don't worry. I think we're still far away from saturation. It's going to be interesting days ahead for Edutech.
Wow. Wow. Thanks, Hansen. Okay. What do you think, Radit, from your side?
Yeah, I think, to an extent, the K-12 segment or online video learning has been quite competitive today. But there are a lot of things that we can still tap into. And we have named a few before, and Hansen also just added. But I think you always start from general, right? The way we kind of make a comparison out of is, at back in the early 2010s, right? Up until like 2014, that was the rise of, no, I'm sorry. Before that, it was like always classifieds, and then he would turn into horizontal e-commerce like Tokopedia, Bukalapak, Lazada, and a few others. But then, these horizontal e-commerce and marketplaces cannot really tap into the special needs that each category requires and cannot fully reach each category's potential. And then we see the emergence of vertically integrated players, right? The ones that is a lot more category focused that can address these specific needs. So from beauty, home and living, fashion, automotive, a few others. And we feel like it's going to happen the same way for the edtech sector. Now everyone's trying to be that horizontal play, but I think moving forward, there will be a lot more vertical players that is really specialized on a special subject, on a special teaching method, on a special use cases in the classroom, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
That's
basically
great.
it, I think.
Thanks, Radit. Okay, from your side, Tania, what do you think?
Yeah, I have to say that I also don't think the sector is saturated. Still early days. I think we have mentioned this a couple times already. Though I have to agree that competition is there, especially for those who targeting mass market, which is fair. But even for those players, everyone is still growing significantly, right? It's still like everyone is still chasing the market share, per se. So it will be quite interesting actually to see someone that will be able to tap into niche market and remain profitable because it might be a different angle. For example, I think Raditya has mentioned a couple times about teacher platform for teachers. And actually, that's one of the solution that I have yet to encounter, which I think will be interesting, because everyone is trying to onboard students into the platform. But the issue is not always about student. If I go back to my statement about ratio of teacher and student, right? What if there's a tech-enabled solution for automated grading system? That will help solve the issue of teachers, and then they can focus on teaching instead of manually grading the homework. So that's actually a very interesting angle, but not so many people look into it because it's very niche and might not be as profitable as the other players. So really looking forward for those kind of solutions. Though I have to say, just looking at the sector and looking at how our country developed, it is indeed makes more sense to go into general and do that horizontal play.
Wow, that's great. Alright guys, I think waktu kita udah mau habis selesai, but I would like to ask you about the last statement from your side, from Radit, from Hansen, and from Tania. Last statement, anything. Maybe starting from Radit.
Last statement.
Yeah, last statement like, okay, anything you wanna share with us, with the startup founders, and yeah, all
No,
players.
I think not just for edtech, right? I think we're at a really exciting period whereby there's a lot of movements from different sectors that what could have we've always seen this coming, right? That that the sectors and the industries would evolve, but we never expect that the evolution would happen this fast. And yes, I think we have been going through such a difficult time with the current COVID-19 pandemic, but this actually created a lot of opportunities and created a lot of a room for us to grow as a country and as entrepreneurs as well for you guys out there. And just wanted to say that for Venturra Discovery, we're always excited to work and empower amazing entrepreneurs. So feel free to reach out to myself and to the team at Venturra.com.
Right, cool. Thanks, Raditya. Okay, from your side, Hansen.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. So yeah, for me, I think I've mentioned this so many times, right? I think really the inflection point is not too far away. I'm really confident I can throw on so many data to support that, but probably will take another session to do so. But yeah, I think one thing that we need to be reminded of is that it takes a concerted effort, right? So everyone, all the stakeholders really need to work together to achieve that inflection point. And I think obviously the most important one would be the entrepreneur, right? So just double clicking on what Radit said, just want to encourage all the startup founders out there, specifically on the edtech segment, right? We're here to support as well. I think, of course, there are a lot, us as an investors, our job is to really support these entrepreneurs and back them up until we can create a very sustainable and impactful business, right? So yeah, as Radit mentioned, alphagwc.com, that's also available.
Thank you, Hansen. Okay, from the most beautiful, our most beautiful speaker, Tania, from your side.
Okay, so not to to also share, Openspace is also open, but I guess like going back. I guess before that, thanks a lot, Hannah and Block 71 for the invitation. Really enjoyed the discussion with the other two speakers as well. As always, I really love it whenever I can learn more about the sector, exchange notes with the other experts. So really appreciate the invitation and the time for it. And that's the same goes for the entrepreneurs out there or even the other investors, right? I would really like it if you guys can like approach me or my colleagues or my team, right? To just like, if it's not for investment opportunity, just to exchange notes about education sector or any other sector in Indonesia. We are always open to share what we thought about the sector, what we have learned about the good and the bad, and also would love to hear it from everyone as well.
Wow, that's great. Thanks, Tania. Guys, we ran off our time. I think that's really insightful session. I think I could say this session is the best session ever on our i360 and Edutech. Thank you so much, Radit and Hansen and Tania for your time and for your availability to be part of our i360 on Edutech. I'll see you guys on any other program, right? Keep in touch, stay healthy, and good luck, everyone. Bye bye.